Hello, good evening, folks. How are you doing today? Hope you've been having a great time. We're back, and we're back with a bang this time around. We're going to be doing quite a bit more consistently. We've had quite a few difficulties, of course. Sometimes, people suffer burnouts, especially when you talk so much about a country like Nigeria so often, which usually is our focus. Now, Nigeria, like we all know, can be a pretty difficult country. But hey, with 220 million people, what do you expect? One out of five black people on earth is Nigerian. So there's always something to talk about. There's always something going on at every point. Fortunately or unfortunately, the good sides, the bad sides, just like we always say, for everything in life. Now, when you look at a country like Nigeria and look at what's been going on over the years, you start to wonder, where do we start? Where do we finish? Tonight, we're going to be talking about how other people around the world are so proud to be associated with a country like Nigeria, how people look at Nigeria and they're like, oh, wow. But Nigerians, I don't know, it seems to be more of a burden to them to be actually holding the Nigerian passport. So much so that you actually see Nigerians actually getting up and saying that they want to go and fight for Ukraine. Now that, Ukraine is being invaded by Russia. To make matters worse, they're actually telling Nigerians, you know what? You actually have to pay $1,000 for you to come fight for Ukraine. How is that even possible? Have we lost our pride? What even really gets to me is the fact that a lot of Nigerians have not been following what has been going on. There's a lot of racism everywhere. Yes, of course, people, especially in times, deep times of trouble, usually lean towards the people that they can relate with, similar cultural backgrounds, that kind of stuff. Yet we all know. But that being said, there are a lot of horrible videos. I'm not going to be showing any of those videos. Usually we do show stuff like that, but tonight I'm just not going to, because it's been pretty upsetting to watch some of them, especially when it comes to women and children. Luckily, it's going to be the International Women's Day this coming week. It's actually the 8th of March. But we're going to be talking about, the role of women in society sometime during the week, or probably the weekend, because we actually have another fantastic show actually scheduled coming up, right after this one, probably on Thursday. And when you look at the issue of women, you look at the role that women play in society, you can't underplay it. So you have to talk about it, celebrate them every time that you can. But women with children are being brutalized simply because it's on. But during the times of war, there's supposed to be a very high level of humanity. There should be no race, there should be no color, because it's just one race, and that's the human race. But we've seen where Africans, both students and the ones that have been working there, some people have been in Ukraine for about 30 years, set up businesses, and they've been doing well. But we've seen where they've been brutalized. We've seen where things have been happening to them, and we have been asking ourselves, this is 2022. Should we have this deep level of racism here in Europe? Unfortunately, that's the case. But we're going to be celebrating Nigeria today. We're going to be talking about a fantastic woman that I just happened to stumble upon. It was a case of somebody told me about her, and I was like, hang on, what are you talking about? So her name is Abiola. Abiola is Indian, out and out. Abiola being Indian, that's not a story, because there are people from different parts of the world. But the story is Abiola bears the name of one of the most celebrated icons when it comes to the history of Nigeria. Arguably the best president Nigeria, never had. This celebrated man, his name is Chief MKO Abiola. He was the purported winner of the 1993 elections in Nigeria, presidential elections, and he just was never sworn in. The military junta just felt they were not going to swear him in, so it didn't happen. But he stood his ground. He tried to fight for his rights, but he lost it all. Late MKO Abiola died under house arrest, but Nigerians have never forgotten him. Nigerians have celebrated MKO Abiola I mean, in all spheres of life. There are roads named after him, libraries named after him, buildings named after him, national honors posthumously. So he's been very well celebrated. So for somebody, an Indian, to be bearing that name, Abiola, of course, it arouses a lot of curiosity. Anytime people hear it, people are like, Abiola, are you mixed race? Do you have any Nigerian connection? That kind of stuff. People are always asking questions. But hey, Abiola truly doesn't. So Abiola has is an Indian that has a Nigerian connection without actually having a connection. So we're going to be listening to a short interview that I did with Abiola and her father. It was pretty interesting. I heard quite a lot of stuff, and I was very proud of my Nigerian heritage. Very, very proud that if we are not celebrating ourselves as Nigerians, at least some people are celebrating us in different parts of the world. So join us as we talk to Abiola. See you in a bit. Hello, everybody. Good evening. You're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. Tonight, I have two amazing guests on the show, Theo and Abiola. Now, you might wonder what exactly is going on. I'll tell you. So, this is about Abiola. It's an Indian story. Abiola's father named her Abiola. And when I first heard about her, an Indian, I was like, you're Indian? I said, yes. Mixed race? I said, no. Pure Indian. I was like, so where did that come from? How did she get that name? So I had to look for her. And I asked her if we could talk to her dad as well, so we could get, some background into this fantastic story. So tonight I have Bill and Abiola on tonight. Hello, Bill. Hi, Abiola. Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, that's brilliant.
We can.
So, Bill, tell me, where did
Okay,
the name
if
Abiola come
you, if I would like to get to the bottom of it and give a very clear picture as to how I ended up uh, getting up a name, rounded up. Say this is about, as I said earlier, this is about August to a period between August and October 1988, and I was reading newspaper and newspaper magazines.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a chance for me to read the newspaper magazines every Friday, and I used to while my time away. And at the same time, I was in the process of looking out for a very unique, different name for my daughter, because we had very traditional naming systems in our native Goa. So I thought of deviating from the normal norms of having common names. So I was going on around for an idea as to how do I source or obtain a different name which would be liked by everyone, liked by the family and by my daughter as well. So one fine day I was reading a magazine, and I think probably I came across maybe a poetry or maybe a few verses, and each sentence of the verse started off with a capital letter.
Okay.
Okay, and I read the verse again. I had a rerun of the whole verse of the poetry about five times, and it struck me that every letter which has been marked at the beginning of the sentence was in a capital form. So I had a piece of paper and pen with me. So I started writing up the capital letters in order. And
Okay.
when I had all the letters together, I put them in one circle and I circled them, and I gave off the newspaper, and I focused on trying to read the whole name, and that's when the idea of Abiola conceived in my mind as a name. I had no idea what it meant, but I did like the sounding of it, the way it appeared, and it looked very feminine to me. So I processed on that idea, and I spoke to my wife, and I spoke to my friends, and I was very happy and upbeat about it. And I think probably this name was accepted by my family, by my wife, and many of my friends. But they did ask me, Pio, do you know the meaning of it? I said, I do not know the meaning of it, but I like the concept of the name. It sounds very feminine, and it has a very distinct feature of being a feminine name. So I carried on with that, and I think probably that ended up as my daughter being named Abiola. That's the end of the story.
Wow. What year was this?
This is about 1988. I think probably
1988.
September 1988.
So Abiola was born in 1988.
Abiola was born on October 1988.
Okay, so have you ever heard the story of a great Nigerian businessman and politician named MKO Abiola?
Well, he probably would not have heard. I got to know about him when I started speaking to, when I was getting in touch with more African friends and or people I was meeting around the world when I was outside. Then that's how I was getting to know, okay, my name is African, because I've never researched on my name or studied or have heard my name anywhere. So wherever on the Asia side, as well as only in the UK, I found out this name is African, and everyone I met was really happy to hear that my name is Abiola, and they wouldn't even believe me if I said my name is Abiola. So sometimes I had to show my ID card to say my name is actually Abiola, even though I was born in India.
I mean, this question was put up across to me as well at work. They said, Pio, your daughter's name is Abiola, and many of my African colleagues, they were really happy about it. And said, how did you manage to name your daughter as Abiola? I said, look, guys, this has got nothing to do with transcontinental naming scenario, but I just happened to choose a name, select a name, and then it has no bearing absolutely on my mind that it has any connections to an African origin. I came to know about it years later, maybe after maybe 20 years or maybe 15 years, that this has distinct bearing in certain African countries, which I had no idea about. I started to get to know when my colleagues started speaking about this. They said, this is a name which is derived from some African countries and many famous African personalities. I said, look here, I'm talking about something between 1988, and end of 1987. And I had no access to Google, no access to internet, and no access to anything else other than just normal dialing phone and newspapers. So this is how I latched on to that name. I liked it, and I had by no means had no idea that it had any linkage to African heritage.
Do you think there's any spirituality or any kind of divine communication that could have happened for you to have chosen the name Abiola?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
We
Yeah.
can hear you, but it's just very soft and it's breaking up in between.
All right, I'll try and raise my voice a little bit. I said, do you think, right, that it has any divine or spiritual connotation for you to have come up with the name Abiola?
You can answer the question.
We not spiritually. Well, it was. I think it was a coincidence that this happened. And when I grew up, I was still inclined towards the African culture, the colorful background and food, especially plantain and jello fry and crispy fried plantains. I would love. So I don't know how this happened. We just think it's a coincidence because I've never had a favorite restaurant, but there's one Jamaican restaurant that I really like, and I always go there to have plantain and jerk chicken. And I don't know how this whole liking developed, but I don't know. But now it all links that my name is African. I love African food, even though we do not have any African heritage or lineage, nothing in our family.
So tell me, the first time that anybody spoke to you and said, do you know that your name is from West Africa? What was your reaction? How did you feel about that?
They asked me, the question that they asked me was, does India have, do they, in India, do they have names as is anybody named Abiola? Is this name very common in India? Are people, boys and girls, named Abiola? I said, no, I haven't come across anybody. If there are any, I am not aware. But in my 25 years of being involved with academic or professional life, I haven't heard anybody, or I haven't even read this name anywhere, or I haven't even heard anybody speak about this. So I have no idea now. And then there is one lady, my first African friend. She's a very good friend. That's how we actually became friends. This was our first conversation, and now it's been, I think, 12 years, and we're friends together. This is how I got to know my name is African, and then I started researching, and then that's how I got to know about the great Abiola.
I would like to endorse what my daughter has just said. In fact, the idea about this name getting its heritage and origins from Africa sounded on me by a few years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was working around, and it's the first time across I came to know that yes, my colleagues told me that your daughter's name has got bearing in African countries. I had never known about it. I said, so how did you manage to name? I said, I have no links whatsoever. I have just come to know that this name is very popular and very famous in African countries. I said I was not aware of it, and I'm aware of it now. That was about a few years back. Till then, I had absolutely no idea that this name had a link towards any African heritage, African culture, or African backgrounds.
So, did they ever tell you the translation of the name?
Some knew the translation, some knew the meaning, and they would ask me, so what do you think? What does your name mean? Is it different in India? Because it's different. In Africa it means something to do with wealth. And I said, in India, this name doesn't exist. So we don't even know what does it mean. So we've got no meaning, no Indian meaning for this name. So, but I think from what I know, what I've heard, or what people have told me, the name has meaning or connects with something to do with wealth, or origination of wealth, or
So, Pio, let me just tell you what you just did, okay? So when you named your daughter Abiola, what you just did was you told the whole world that you had given birth to wealth.
Sorry?
So when you gave birth to your daughter and you named her Abiola, you had just told the entire world that you have given birth to wealth.
Oh, this is what. Did you get it?
What?
So when it means that you're giving birth to wealth.
Well, I would like to corroborate your comment. In fact, when my daughter was born, I have not even given birth to wealth, but I think this is one of the most priceless gifts I have ever received. She is wealth by herself, wealth by itself, okay? And I think for me, it will go a long way that I would accept your comments that you have given birth to something wealthy in your family, and she's my wealth, and I would like to carry it forward.
So do you have any other children that you named any African-related name?
No, I have a younger brother, but his name is not African. I mean, this is, at least up to now, we do know that his name is not African, but his name is also unique. But we haven't got any other African.
What's his own name?
My son's name is Alirio Elizalde.
Alilia.
Yeah, Alirio Elizalde.
That sounds Spanish.
Well, I would not really say Spanish. It is more towards Portuguese. It's a link between Portuguese and Spanish because we have a Portuguese descent. We come from Portuguese descent. So again, my ideas worked on naming, and I made a lot of rounds of trying to get into the best names across, and I ended up shortlisting Alirio. I liked it, and I shortlisted Elizar because I like that name, and I went ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna give him another name, something similar to Abiola, and that's going to be Kolawole.
So go ahead.
Kolawole means bringing wealth into the house.
So does that have any connection with Abiola?
Well, not exactly. It doesn't have a direct connection with Abiola, but it's just a similar name to Abiola because Ola is wealth. So Kola, that's bring wealth or carry wealth. Wale means into the house or into a family. Now, the reason why I said that is this. Phil, you have a very unique ability to pick unique names for your children. That makes you a very unique person. If I may ask you, what exactly would you say is your motivation in life? What drives you? What excites you?
What drives me or what excites me?
Yeah, what motivates you? What excites you?
Well, if you're talking about in general perspective of life, what motivates me is to see the ultimate success of my of both my children in be it academics or be it their career or be it a target which they have set up for and they achieve the target. This is
Yeah.
more than a motivation point for me, and I'm always there to encourage them to obtain that target within their frame of ability. So
Wow.
seeking their ultimate success is a motivation itself for me, and I'm very happy about it.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, Abiola, tell me something. How do you think that name has impacted you?
Well, now I know that it is diversified and it connects me to another culture. My inclination or I'm slowly developing my knowledge and my liking towards a different culture, which I never would have imagined to increase my knowledge in or go ahead to know more about a different culture. So it's probably only because of my name I am now connecting myself with different culture and to know more about it, get myself involved and know more about the people or the local community or to engage myself with a different culture.
Your name is going to make you very famous. I can see that already. Now, have you ever thought of going to the origin of that name, like going to West Africa, Nigeria particularly? Have you ever thought of that?
I have never been to Africa, but it is on my list to definitely go there and discover or actually spend some time there to know more about the culture in depth, to see how people survive, or also meet some more people who have the same name as me. How do they feel, and how would they feel to meet me from a different country or a different person, a brown person having the same name?
Well,
Same people.
we're going to be looking towards making you an ambassador of the Yoruba people because the name is actually a Yoruba name. Okay, I'm also Yoruba as well, so probably that's why I got really intrigued. But at the same time, I'm also a student of history, and then the man that you bear the same name with, MKO Abiola, happens to be the bastion of democracy in Nigeria. He is the one that a lot of people refer to when you talk about the greatest democratic upset in Nigerian history. He came from nowhere. He was not part of the political establishment. Something like Donald Trump kind of like stuff. Not being a politician, but he decided that he wanted better for the people of his country. And he ran for presidency. And he did win the presidency, but he was undeclared. His election was annulled by the military regime, and the whole country went up in an uproar. For a country as divided along the lines of religious and ethnic bias in Nigeria, this man was an enigma, was a colossus, and he was able to bring the whole country together behind him. he was a really, truly great man.
Mhm.
And in Nigeria, we still honor the guy like everywhere. We got streets named after him, buildings after him, and all of that. Even though these were things that he was able to do himself when he was alive, because, like I said, he was a billionaire, he was a business mogul, he was a very, very successful and wealthy man. But yet, the one thing that he truly wanted was to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but that never happened. He was probably the best president Nigeria ever had, or never had, sorry. But hey, that's history for you. Something unique always comes up, somewhere along the line in life for great people. And for your father to have had that inspiration, to have named you Abiola, I can't imagine what's in store for you. But like I said, we are probably going to be fighting for you to become the Yoruba ambassador to India, or probably to the UK, who knows? Because you have a unique name. Your name is breaking barriers. Your name is telling the world that the world is becoming a global village. But also, the man that's responsible for all of this, Pio,
Thank you so much.
you're amazing. Truly, truly amazing. Truly amazing. I think you get all the accolades, and then she gets all the blessings of the name. So it's been wonderful talking to both of you. I'm truly honored to have, been able to get both of you online at the same time and hear this story from both of you. I hope at some point we are going to be able to talk to Abiola again, maybe when she becomes the ambassador, or who knows. And we will get to hear how far this has gone for her. We're going to be sharing your story in as many places as possible, on as many podcasts, news, or whatever,
Oh, thank you
as
so
much
much.
as we can. This is the political season in Nigeria. We're going for another round of elections, general elections in 2023, and people have started to campaign. So definitely, a lot of people are going to want to hear Abiola's story and say, really, there's an Indian named Abiola. So I'm sure this is a superb story. And we're glad that, you're telling it for the first time ever anywhere on fromaradio.com and on Just Banter. Thank you very much, Pio.
Thank you
Truly
so much.
appreciate you taking that time to join us. Abiola, thank you so, so, so much. This has been a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. You're just as beautiful as the name Abiola.
Thank you, Abi. Thank you for interviewing us and bringing us more close to the culture.
Yeah, and it has also
definitely.
it has also made me very equally happy that my daughter's name has been accepted to larger extended areas and being more popular now, which I had no inclination about 30 years back.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's been a pleasant surprise to you.
It has definitely been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had Nigerian food? Either of you?
I have had a lot, yes. Ever since then, I started going to more African restaurants, places to eat, or I would tell my friends to make crispy fried plantains for me.
Well, so you've never had jollof rice?
I've had jollof fry, crispy fried plantains, and jerk chicken, and more spices, or any African drinks. Going to African stores or going to African food festivals in London.
Ah, right. And, what about you, Pio?
Oh well, I was coming to that. In fact, I grew up with neighbors who have who got remigrated back to Goa from many African countries: Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique, and many other East African countries. And my neighbors, in fact, were mostly all of them were from Nairobi, Kenya, and Mombasa. So I grew up with my friends, and I could hear phrases like Jambo Abari, Apana Muzuri, and Simba Simba. And I used to grow up with a few things which have been brought by the families from Africa, and I do remember it's very vivid in my memory. So every time I go down back to my village and I see, oh, this was the African uncle or African auntie. So as such, I did not see Africa at large, but I could see Kenya and Nairobi around my neighborhood.
Wow. You've led a really, really rich life. really rich, culturally speaking. That is. Meeting people from different parts of the world, being influenced by it. So that has probably made you a very open-minded person. How has that helped you living in England?
Yeah.
It has helped us to know more about different cultures and connecting. It was easier to connect. Sometimes, you do get barriers, or people do hesitate to speak to different. It could be different kinds of accents, different food, different way people speak to each other. I think that really helped us to connect more with our friends and grow more friendship with people from West Africa, Eastern Africa.
That's brilliant. So, talking about the food, I'm going to make sure that I actually invite you both out to a Nigerian restaurant in London.
That will be really great.
Yeah, fine. It would be a pleasure to be witnessing something nice and extraordinary. I would be looking forward to it.
It will be my absolute pleasure to do that. I'm going to make sure you eat amala, you eat eba, and you eat a roll. I'll tell you all about it when I get in touch with you guys and invite you out. Sometime very soon, maybe in another week or two. Most definitely. I'll make sure I come to London. I'll make sure I come and sit down with you, take you out to that lunch, and then we can have a really, really rich discussion again off camera about this amazing experience of
Mm-hmm.
the Indian woman called Abiola. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you so much.
All right, then. You have a great evening.
You too.
Catch you up soon.
Bye bye.
Catch you later.
Bye
Bye.
for now. Bye.
So, an amazing conversation with Abiola. And like you could see, I was pretty excited, in the course of that discussion. I was like, wow. Now, it goes back to what I said earlier about the world, being one. There's just no argument about it. Sometimes, you get an inspiration, you don't know where it's going to come from, but it just happened. And then, you never know where it's going to take you. There's only one race, and that's the human race. A lot of people, happen to fall into different circumstances in life, and then they make the best out of it. For somebody like Abiola, bearing that type of name, has probably done quite a bit for her. It's opened doors. It's actually, given her nice connections in different places. Not connections like in the Niger sense of things, but at least a lot of places where you are able to either speak the language, that they speak there, or you're able to say something in that language, even if you can't speak the language adequately. People initially smile at you and then they try to find out, out of curiosity, do you actually speak the language? Are you from this part? That kind of stuff. When they see that you do take an interest in their language, then they happen to just love you all the more. Now, as Nigerians, we need to start looking at things very differently. We need to start thinking about how proud of ourselves we should be. It's a shame that Nigeria has consistently suffered bad governance over the years. But nobody can be blamed, for Nigerians suffering bad governance except Nigerians themselves. Until Nigerians start to look at the way elections are conducted in Nigeria, the way politics, you actually do have professional politicians all over the world. The difference with Nigeria or most African countries is that most of the politicians in most developed countries actually do have professions before they become politicians. Whereas in Nigeria, you actually have just been in politics all their lives. Well, not just in Nigeria, in different parts of Africa, or the third world, as we are called. So many of them are professional politicians. They've done nothing else. So that's all they know. Now, not like you could go to a school to become a politician when it comes to the Nigerian context, because politics in Nigeria, trust me, is a totally, totally different ballgame. Now, that being said, almost 70% of the population of Nigeria is under the age of 40. Now, if you have such a massive, massive, large population, if Nigeria's population is roughly 220 million, that means you're talking about roughly 160 to 170 million people who are under that age. Nigeria has a massive, great future. But until Nigerians actually start to do things for Nigeria, nothing is ever going to change. It takes a lot of collective effort for things to change in any environment. Yes, of course, there's always, the initial rejection of whatever changes you're trying to bring. And then there's later anger. And then people start to accept. It takes a little bit of time. But we actually do need to start from somewhere. Next elections are coming. When it does come, I hope that Nigerians are going to vote differently. We know that there are a lot of challenges when it comes to the political system and the electioneering system, especially when it comes to party politics. Party politics in Nigeria is a very weird thing that happens there. It's a case of man, no man. They pick each other and then they just run things, as opposed to people being the ones to actually choose the people that they want to be their leaders. Now, there have been quite a few changes that have been attempted. We are yet to see the effects of those changes, especially when it comes to the likes of direct primaries, whom, as somebody mentioned, when you talk of direct primaries, you're probably talking about money bags hijacking the entire process. But we have spoken to quite a few politicians in the past. We're going to put some links in the descriptions below, and then you could actually check out some of those, videos from last year when we spoke to quite a few of those politicians. And all of them had, one or two things to say. But the one thing that was very common about, all of them was the fact that they all said there was no internal democracy in Nigerian politics, especially when it came to their political parties. So it's not a case of people actually select the people that they want, support them within the parties, and then push them to become, their party candidates. It's actually the parties that actually do that. We hope a lot of things are going to change going forward. We hope that people are going to stand up and say, you know what, enough is enough. Especially with the way that racism has come to the fore in recent days. Yeah, and I said recent days, not in recent times, in recent days, with the Russia-Ukraine war. We've seen what's been happening. We know that the only reason why this type of things happen is because we as Africans do not exhibit what our true potentials are most of the time. And we need to start doing that. You don't need to get things done in an aggressive manner. You can always get things done intelligently. And there are so many intelligent people. When you talk about Nigerians or Africans, you see them as doctors, engineers, lawyers, scattered all over the world, contributing very, very immensely to whatever environment that they find themselves. So we also know that they can equally do the same, especially when you look at the fact that a lot of them actually do send money back home to the countries where they are from originally. That shows you that they do care. They do love the country where they are from, or countries, as the case might be, for some people who have dual nationalities, even within Africa. And hey, they do their best. So the onus is on those who are still back in Africa, or those who still go back and forth from Africa, to actually try to contribute, to try to make Africa a much greater place. Like a friend of mine will say, and I'm sure he's watching this, he always says the motherland. He never forgets it, regardless of where he lives in the world. He's always, willing to do stuff when it comes to the African continent. He's a reader and he's a heavy contributor. He has contributed heavily to us here on Fromaradio.com and also on Just to Banter. And he's always willing to come back. We are definitely going to be talking about these issues that have happened in recent times, especially when it comes to the issue of racism. or how racism is perceived. Because in a lot of cases, it's a few people that come out to actually show or exhibit this racism. The others are quiet about it. So is it a case of is it passive support? These are all issues that we would like to discuss. So we're going to begin bringing up a couple of guests soon. We already have a couple of shows lined up, unfortunately, so we're not going to be able to fast track it and bring those guests on to discuss those topics. But we're going to be discussing the topics as we have lined them up. And we're also going to be talking about a lot of things that people have tried to tell us don't talk about. Because it is time to start talking about those things that people are quiet about. The more you are quiet about certain issues, the more passive support that you're giving. And the more passive support you give to what is bad, the more it grows. And the more it grows, the more it becomes the norm. So we all need to start taking a stand, stop sitting on the fence. We need to start saying what is bad. We need to start pushing to make things happen. Now, enough with the dreary talk. Good things are also happening in different parts of the world. Yesterday, Nigerian superstar Davido was at the O2 in London and he shut down London. It was fantastic to watch. I didn't go. I couldn't make it there. It was beyond my scope. Let me put it like that. But when you see things like that happening, I mean, it just makes you very, very, very proud. Afrobeat is taking, Nigeria particularly to the world. We've seen Whiskey at O2 as well, and he did a 3-day back-to-back show. I mean, that was fantastic. Sold out all Davido's as well. Yesterday, rumored to be sold out as well. We have unconfirmed reports about that, but that's what we heard. And some of the videos that we saw, I mean, it was amazing to see that African music has gone that mainstream and is affecting different genres around the world. We've seen the likes of Beyonce, Ed Sheeran, all of them, taking part in collaborations when it comes to Afrobeats. If we can do that with Afrobeats, it also means that we can do that with so many other things. So I'm excited to see what the future holds when it comes to Africa and when it comes to Nigeria in particular, what we can contribute to the world positively, and how the world can start to perceive us as human beings and treat us with a lot of respect. Because at the very least, that's what we deserve. We deserve a little bit of respect. Nigerians are working towards it. So big up to you, Davido. Big up to Wizkid and all those who have been in entertainment and who have been pushing this for a long, long time. Especially when you talk of one of our own, one of our partners, Stronghold Entertainment. When you talk of Stronghold Entertainment, you talk of the likes of Tokwe Song, you talk of My Pad. There's so many of them who have been doing quite a lot of stuff in trying to push Nigerian music forward. You have Tony Wakalo, you have Michael Lohio. I mean, there's so many, so many. Don't Jazzy name them, but a lot of them, of course, have grown much older, so they're not really playing in the game anymore like they used to. But we still give a lot of kudos to them. We know that they are doing fantastic in whatever spheres of endeavor that they are in right now. So we'd like to say a big thank you to them for actually persevering and actually raising the standard and trying to push Afro beats to the fore. Thank you very much to all you guys. So we're going to be seeing you on our next show, and I'm sure you're going to love it. We're going to be talking about the present crisis that you have in Nigeria, which is the oil and gas issue, petrol particularly. I mean, things have gotten so ridiculous that people are actually giving out petrol as souvenirs at parties. Can you imagine that? In my entire life, in my wildest dreams, I'd never thought that I would see something like that, but that's actually happening. So they need to start talking about that. That's a problem that's been persistent. How can an oil producing country continue to suffer fuel scarcity? How can they be importing fuel? And even the fuel they're importing is bad. It's damaging the cars, it's damaging the engines of people's generators and all whatnot. A lot of hardships are created by the government in the initial. And then they even make it worse by not having a strong quality assurance team in place to monitor the type of goods and products that come in country. Who's going to pay for all the damage to all those machines that have been damaged, cars, generators, and all of that? It's a terrible situation. But like I said, if we keep having conversations, then we're going to be able to change things around. So we did have a great conversation with somebody who's an oil and gas expert, who's been, in oil and gas for 21 years. Old friend as well. And he happened to have gone to one of the premier universities in Nigeria. He's worked in Nigeria practically all his life. So he knows the in and out of that oil and gas industry. He's been an expert, in the downstream sector, in the midstream as well. So he does know his onions. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And I'm sure you'd love to hear him out and try to see, whatever it is that you can pull out of that conversation with him on how to change Nigeria, how to move things around, and how to, at the very least, start to ask the right questions when it comes to the oil and gas sector. So we hope we'll see you on that, coming up on Thursday. For sure you'll love it. And like we always say no to rape. It's something that we've never stopped talking about. There have been recent issues about that, so please, we still need to fight that cause. We still need to keep talking about it. We still need to tell people that, you can't go around, hurting people and taking the dignity of people away. Do we need to remind you of the statistics, of the data? 1 in 4 young women before the age of 18 goes through sexual abuse. And 1 out of 10 young men before the age of 18 go through sexual abuse. So we all need to be very watchful. We need to be very careful. We need to listen to what kids are not saying. Mind you, even the elderly are very vulnerable. So we need to look after them as well. So please, like we always say, if you can, use the hashtag say no to rape. It's there on your screen. No, you can use the hashtag no excuse or use the hashtag no to rape. The more people talk about it, the more you have conversations, the more things change. The more we can keep fighting to make things get better in whatever societies that we live in. International Women's Day coming up, like we mentioned earlier on. So let's celebrate women. Let's talk about the issue of rape. Let's talk about the way they're being violated in different places. Let's talk about gender-based violence. Let's have these conversations as much as we can, and let's try to make a strong improvement. We hope to see you again, like we said, on the next show. And I'm sure, like I said, you'd love it. You take care and have a great day. Good night.
That whether we like it or not, have reached the best buy date for those 3 refineries.
Okay.
So automatically, they should be knocked down, in my opinion, and sold as scrap. But you see, in that statement, Habib, we also need to dig deeper. The petroleum industry in Nigeria has been shrouded or covered by regulation for quite a while. So what that means is this.